Communication. Today I wanted to talk about communication. What I'm doing right now with you. Well, to you. I'm communicating to you. Peace. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Oge, and on this channel I share my life experiences. I share the things that I do, my art, my creativity, the different spaces that I hold and create. Ultimately, this channel is to bring you back to the present moment, at least provide inspiration to do so, bring you back to who you are authentically. I believe that we are all here to create, connect, and contribute. And so having this channel, I'm able to create and feed into my creativity. And I'm able to connect to all of you out there watching, and I'm able to contribute to a larger collective consciousness that hopefully will create a better world for tomorrow, a better world for my great grandchildren. So I am just a drop in the the vast ocean of life. And hopefully that ripple will continue on to you all out there. So that was a very long intro. A lot of us think that, I think generally speaking, many people think that they are communicating when they're not. 90% of the time, if not more, we're not communicating. We're talking, we're saying things, we're not saying things, but is it getting across for the other person to understand? More than likely not. So if we get the definition of communication, communicate within communication, the definitions of communicate are to share or exchange information, news, or ideas, to impart or pass on information, news, or ideas, to convey or transmit an emotion or feeling in a nonverbal way, succeeding in conveying one's ideas or in evoking understanding in others, between two people to be able to share and understand each other's thoughts and feelings, to transmit heat or emotion, to pass on a disease to another person or animal. The disease is communicated from one person to another, and within two rooms, to have a common connecting door. The dining room communicates with the kitchen. And then a final one, which I didn't know, receive Holy Communion. Orthodox policy is to communicate in both kinds, both bread and wine. Within Latin, communicate, shared, common, so mutual understanding. To communicate, for the other person to understand you either in a verbal or non-verbal way, to have a shared understanding, to be able to convey your thoughts and feelings across with words or not with words. My partner, his first language isn't English, and English is my first language. And growing up with a Nigerian mother, because I was born in Nigeria, but within the household, after a certain age, she only spoke English, but English is not her native language. And so communicating in English to a non-English speaker, or English not being their native tongue, requires a strong level of communication. Not only that, but it requires you to be present. And a lot of us think that we're communicating, but we're just talking. We're just saying words to either be right, not be wrong, to not look bad, to appease, or to fill our egos. There are different intentions on why we communicate. But if we come from an intention of communicating to be understood, or communicating to understand the other person's point of view, that helps to bring us to the present moment of having compassion and a mutual understanding of each other. Specifically, it can be challenging communicating in relationships, and relationships don't necessarily have to be romantic. Relationships are in friendships, relationships are, family members, parents, siblings, cousins, relationships when it comes to your work environment. You have a working relationship with your boss, your coworker, your subordinate. When we're communicating in relationships to people that specifically the language that you speak is not their native language, that makes things even more challenging, because even the structure of sentences within their language is completely different when you translate, if you're not aware of the sentence structure or meanings of words if they're put in front or after another word. It's so subtle that honestly, in order to have good communication, one would really need to cultivate a practice of mindfulness, of awareness, to be present to what that person is saying, and even taking it to the next level to develop an understanding of each other. Maybe repeat back what you heard, because not only is language involved, it's the perception of that, what that person is saying. They may say something that you understand each word. When it comes to the language, you understand each word, but your perception of that word based off of your experiences, based off of your language, based off of your thoughts, feelings, in that moment, your perception can completely distort what the person is trying to communicate, right? And I think being aware that communication requires presence helps you to have more of compassion for the other person, more compassion for yourself, and more of an open and willingness to understand or overstand. But even to take it a step further, with our perception, we have our automatics, what we automatically do on a day-to-day. Habits are so deeply ingrained, or our personalities are so deeply ingrained, that we don't even realize that the responses are a reaction and not actually a response. It's a reaction. It's habitual. It's an automatic, because one, you're not present to what they're actually saying today in this moment. Two, you are in the past. Maybe you had a previous partner or a father that had the same ways of communicating, same something that triggered you to go back to that time and respond from that state of mind or state of being. And it all goes back to being present. And so when you're listening to someone speak, majority of us are listening to respond.
Okay, I have something to say. I'm gonna say.
Oh, and you're already responding in your head. You're listening to see if that person's wrong so you can be right.
Oh no, that's not right. So I'm gonna completely ignore everything else that they're saying, because what they just said doesn't sit well with me.
So you're listening to respond, you're listening to make the other person wrong and yourself right. You're listening to not look bad. So your mind is doing all of these things while the other person is trying to communicate to you. And then you realize when you respond, you're probably not responding to what they're actually saying. So the communication, there is none. It goes over your head, and both of you are now responding to your automatics versus the present moment. Because when we are in our present moment, when we are truly in the present moment, the automatics actually don't even exist. They can't. And that's why it is actually extremely challenging to communicate in the present moment. When people say yoga, meditation, all these things are a practice, because it is that, essentially that, it is a practice, something that you do daily. Check in with yourself and continue to be aware of your consciousness and expand to be able to have the self-awareness and realize that each day is different. Each day is different. And so the more we cultivate presence, the more we can communicate better to our loved ones, to our friends, to our coworkers, to strangers. So that brings me to say, communication with full awareness, that's actually communication. That's true communication. And everything else is an illusion of it. Everything else is an illusion of it. Communication requires present listening and present speaking. Speaking from the present moment and listening in the present moment. So essentially, awareness is the key to effective communication. I hope this resonates with someone out there. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, please leave it in the comments section below. I would love to hear what came up for you as I was sharing my thoughts on communication. Honestly, appreciate the moments of friction, appreciate those challenges, and the more that you can be aware of them, it will help you in the long run. So see if you can cultivate a practice of being present when someone is speaking to you. And if you're not able to give them your undivided attention, let them know, because then you're just aiding to the miscommunication. Till next time, peace.